And welcome to Sports on Tap. We are live from the Strongsville Rec Center. It's the Team Strongsville Swing for the Stars baseball party. And the proceeds here are to benefit the Team Strongsville Kelly Kinney Pay It Forward grant. And want to welcome everyone for joining us. And we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball here today. But, guys, we did this event last year. It was a great success, a lot of fun. And we're back at it again this year. So welcome.
Oh, we're very excited to be here. This is a this is a great event. I mean, we got a lot of things going on here. We got Chinese raffles, we got Twister right in front of us. We got Wii Sports. Each table has a different board game on it. I've seen the Sorry, Connect 4, Trivial Pursuit, Checkers, Battleship, all the classics.
Yeah.
Candyland.
We
got plenty of arts and crafts going on the left-hand side of me. Plenty of food. This is just a fantastic event, and it's for a great cause.
And people are starting to walk in now. It started at 7 o'clock, so getting underway right now. But like you said, a lot of food, and they have a big screen for the Final Four going on.
You can get your basketball fix in here as well, folks. So, I mean, if you're worried about missing the game, no worries. We have a big screen here, plenty of food. This is come spend a little bit of money and for a great cause and watch the games.
Yeah, and you can currently see Villanova just smoking Oklahoma right now.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's Buddy Hield not doing so hot today, huh?
Yeah, not at all. I think he's mad he didn't win AP Player of the Year.
He might be. But we're going to talk a little Major League Baseball. Before we're going to have a lot of interviews going on. And here's one of our favorite guys going. He's got.
What's up, Zach?
Wait,
Zach, wait, what's his name?
Kahn.
There it is.
He's in the house.
We got to have you on later. So we'll have you on. Zach Kahn is here, and he's the Strongsville running back who was on our show already this year and stud in football. Now he's entered the baseball season. How's it been going so far?
We can't hear.
No one can't hear any of the answers he's giving right now.
Hold on, I can't.
Rob's having an actual conversation.
We could just have him sit down.
Hey, yeah, do you want to just talk to us right now?
There we go. All right. Going a little off script here, but
Josh, you got to turn that on.
I like it. I like it.
Sorry, this is live.
Why not?
Our engineer was not ready for that.
Testing
That's
1
what I'm
2
talking about
1
right
2.
here.
There we go.
Kahn just crashing the set.
Yeah,
Like
Ready
it.
to go.
But
Not
hey,
messing
I like
around.
that.
How you doing, man?
Fantastic.
How's
I'm doing good. It's going good. Baseball's starting up. Things are going good.
So what's your record so far this year?
Right now we're 2-1. 2-1.
Okay.
We actually lost today against Jackson, who's I think 8 or 9 in the state. Last weekend we went down to Cincinnati. We had a doubleheader against Cincinnati Moeller, who was the defending state champs. We beat them 11-5, I think.
Nice.
And then we played the state runner-up in Kentucky, Highlands High School, and we beat them 2-1.
Nice.
So we're playing some tough teams, to get our season started. But we're doing pretty good.
Now, how's the transition been? You go from football to baseball. Now you got to get your swing.
Right.
And you're a second baseman and outfielder. So how's it been like kind of going from football to baseball now?
Yeah, I mean, I was working out all winter. We started baseball up around the last week of February. And then, the outfield stuff, I play center field. The outfield stuff comes back pretty easy. I mean, you just got to be an athlete a little bit. But, it takes a few weeks to get your swing back. And, we're getting rolling now, getting ready for conference play, so we're excited.
Have you guys had a lot of games canceled so far because of weather, or you guys been pretty good about playing your schedule so far?
Yeah, so our first games were last weekend, and then we were scheduled to play this Tuesday, and that got canceled. And then we were scheduled to play yesterday. We got the top half of the first inning, and then the monsoons came, so that got canceled.
Is it tough keeping a rhythm going when you're playing? You have your scheduled games, and you only maybe play once a week?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, timing's a big part of baseball. I mean, when you're playing a game once a week, it's a little tough. You would like to play 3 or 4 times a week, get your timing down, especially at the beginning of the season. So it's kind of tough when you have rainouts. You're seeing live pitching once every week, so it's pretty tough.
And, not to go back to football, but you decided and committed to Miami University. Congratulations on that. That's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that. Both my parents went there, actually, so, they're pretty excited. So, that's going to be a hard work in front of me. I leave June 24th. I'm going down, work out all summer. We also take a class to lighten up the schedule over the fall a little bit. And then we start camp in August, so, we're looking forward to it.
Now, when you go to Miami, are you going to still be a running back, or are they going to try to have you I heard they were trying you maybe at safety as well. What are they looking to do with you there?
Yeah, so I didn't know at first, and then when I went down on my visit, I met Coach Martin and then the running backs coach. So I'm going to stay at running back. I'm the only running back in our class that they're bringing in, so, I'm pretty excited.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's big.
Are you planning on redshirting, or are you to try to make some noise as a true freshman?
Yeah, I'm going to go out there and do the best I can in camp, try and make a good impression. They redshirt at the end of the season, so, if I don't play any snaps during the year, I'll probably end up getting redshirted. But they make that decision at the end of the season, not at the beginning.
Now, are you going to try to play baseball as well up at Miami, or is it just football?
No, just football.
Just football now.
Football is going to be a lot of work as it is. So,
I can
baseball,
only, man.
Baseball will be tough.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exciting.
What do you plan on majoring in?
I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to major in. I already got into the business school, so I'm in the business school already. I'm going to take some intro classes and decide. Right now I'm looking at maybe business management or like a supply chain management type thing, but I haven't declared what I'm going to major in yet.
Yeah, you got some time to get that done.
Yeah.
I don't think half of us knew what we were doing in the first couple of years either.
Still
so
don't, actually.
No way.
Yeah, we're still trying to kind of figure that one out, but regardless, that's a good time down there. I've been down there a couple of times. I had a couple of my best friends went down there, and
yeah, I'm excited.
It's solid down there.
Do you remember the time you?
Absolutely, I remember every single detail of it.
Well, that's a good
Foggy, but
We're at the Team Strongsville Swing for the Stars baseball party. The proceeds benefit the Kelly Kinney Pay It Forward grant. And, Zach, now you're here, and so is the rest of the baseball team. What are you guys going to help volunteer and do here?
Yeah, we're just going to be running some of the stations. We wanted to, this to kind of kick off our season too. We're starting to get rolling. We just wanted to get our faces out in front of the community, let them know that we're going to be involved, and hope that they can get involved with us. We got free food up here. Just got to pay to get in, and we got fun things. We got Wii bowling, Twister, and some other fun activities that are going on. So we're just gonna be helping out with that.
So if you're at the Wii bowling game, what's your average score going to be?
Oh man,
are you going to beat the rest of your team here?
No,
it looks
I'm
like
not,
they're getting into
I'm not
it right
the video game guy in the team. I'm more of a out in action person. I won't be putting up big numbers in Wii bowling tonight. On Twister, maybe I'll be doing pretty good, but not Wii bowling.
Yeah, what do you think about the? We'll talk a little bit. We were just about to talk about the Indian season. So we'll ask you. How do you think the Indians are? How do you think they look this year? And what are your predictions for?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for them to get started. They should have a chance to make a run at the division. It's going to be tough with the Royals coming back after winning the World Series. But,
what about the Tigers?
They're always tough. Tigers are always tough.
Yeah, they are.
It'll always be a battle with them. But, hopefully we can make some noise and, help out Cleveland a little bit.
Well, they have a lot of the same players. They were young players. They picked up a few veterans here and there. And I think they're hoping, obviously you have Lindor who's back and ripping it up right now, and some other young players that hopefully will step it up. The pitching staff is solid. So we'll see what happens. The greatest thing tonight, though, is that Sean Duffy has a game-worn CC Sabathia Cleveland Indians jersey.
You mean the
right over
me?
his
this thing
his
you
head.
Can cover a car with.
Yeah, that thing
that is huge.
That is insane, and it is game-worn.
Wow.
CC's a big dude, but that's pretty.
I don't know if he was that. Wow. I didn't know he was that big.
Yeah, apparently he's.
But he wore
huge.
it baggy too, even when he was like.
Yeah,
that's
when
true.
He was pitching, so it was.
Well, let's be honest here. If I was him, would you really want a tight-fitting shirt?
No.
He's getting paid $80 million either way. At least he's eating donuts now.
Oh, that's fair. I'll give you
He
that.
can do what he wants. So do you think the Indians, what are their chances they win the division this year? Do you think they're pretty good? Or?
Yeah, I think they have a good chance. We got some experience last year bringing back some guys that I think will really help us. You got Frankie Lindor. He's a beast. So hopefully he can lead us to, a division championship.
Is that your favorite player on the team, or do
Yeah,
you
I
have
like
one?
him. I like him.
Lindor. Yeah, he had a great season last year, and we'll see what happens with this Indians team. We'll dive into that, but Zach, we'll let you get back to
thank you.
To work.
Yeah, get back to work. But thanks for coming and talking with us.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations on your college choice, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch and talk to you and see how Miami's going as well.
Sounds good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Zachary Kahn.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Good talking with you. And a great kid that picked Miami University. He'll be a Red Hawk, and just a very nice, well-spoken kid, and always a pleasure to talk to him.
Could have picked BG.
Yeah, I should have
Well,
asked.
it's interesting because, he said both of his parents went there, and and Coach Sestachirci also went there.
Well, maybe he had some
got a lot of
influence.
Got a lot of help. Maybe
Could have broke the
going
mold,
there.
though. He could have broke the mold and went to Bowling Green.
Well,
You know what I mean? Step up to a winner.
excuse me. Well, now he's really, working on his possibly his college career. He's working the Twister station.
Yep.
That could come in handy.
Sure.
I'm not sure you're trying to get out there.
May come in handy. Well, listen, if you're in school, you're bored, fine. It's maybe finals week. You need to let go a little bit. You and your buddies go play a little bit of Twister. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I mean, I never played Twister in college without having a few adult beverages in
Well,
me.
no, it's not say that. And, Sean,
Yeah.
no offense, but Twister's not necessarily a big person game.
It's
Wow.
not. It's really not.
I'm glad you qualify that by saying no offense. By the
Well,
way.
I had to.
'Cause
I
clear-
took
'cause
absolutely
obviously
no
something
offense to
offensive
that.
was about to happen after that.
I took no offense to that. I have size 13 feet. I can't even play that. I can't play that game correctly.
That's true. You'd be on yellow and green at the
Yellow,
same time.
green, possibly a little bit on blue.
That's cheating, son. You can't do that.
Well, here's a good way to change this up. Let's go now to the Central Division. We'll go from Twister into Major League Baseball in the Central Division.
Hey, the Central Division could be one big game of Twister,
yeah.
constantly
You know what, it could
going
be.
left
Oh, yeah.
and right, up and down. And you know what? It's great talking to baseball. Baseball opening day is Monday.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
season gets
Finally.
underway, and then you look outside today, and it's snow.
Yes.
Nothing beats Ohio baseball in April in Northeast Ohio.
And it's odd that Cleveland has a home game. Normally they schedule the Central Division into like the warmer areas, right?
And not only that, they usually schedule them still in cold weather cities. Which
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the past couple of years, like the Indians started off in like Anaheim
In
or
Tampa Bay or
Texas
something like
Tampa,
that.
and then the latter half of the week they're in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. That makes no sense. Like you would think you would start with a road trip to the west.
I guess
Or
you
at least a warm weather
you really,
city or something.
but you really couldn't have, all the teams in a warm weather. How can you really predict the weather? Who knows?
That's
it could
true,
have been
yeah.
70 degrees on Monday.
That's true. I'll give you that. And I know a lot of the teams that are like those warm weather cities don't like having all their home games first because
Yeah.
that means they're going to get less home games later in the year, and that obviously comes into play later in the season when you're battling for playoff positioning.
Yeah.
Going through the Central. Well, we'll first start with the Indians. Obviously, you look at some of the players that the Indians now have. Duffy is familiar with Rajai Davis.
I am familiar with Rajai.
See that picture? It was on the Indians' Twitter, maybe Facebook feed today, and they had a caption this comment. Rajai Davis hit a 3-run home run yesterday, and he was trucking around the bases.
You know why that is? Because the same hit in Comerica Park is only a double.
Yeah, right.
Fair enough.
That's the longest freaking outfield, man.
Now, Duff, what do you think of Rajai Davis? I mean, what did he do well for Detroit, and what do you think he needed to do a little bit better when you watched the Detroit Tigers game from last year?
Well, I mean, I think what he did really well last year was he was a contact hitter. He was able to get on base either by walk or by hit. And I really think what happened was there wasn't enough room for him on the lineup. When they added Justin Upton, he became essentially expendable, and they were able to then the Indians were able to grab him up, and he's still a solid left fielder. He's pretty good, very good defensively. He's not a power hitter, but he is a guy, like I say, that can make contact. He was very good in certain spots for the Tigers last year, so it's very It's a pretty good pickup for Detroit or for Cleveland, and I was not sad to see him go because obviously you add Justin Upton to that situation, you got to be happy with that. But obviously it's good that he stayed in the Central Division. It's good that he stayed in the American League because I think he's a pretty good solid player going forward, and I think he might find a pretty good home in Cleveland. In that outfield right now, and kind of make Terry Francona look like a smart guy for wanting to get him into left field.
Well, and the thing with Davis too is, I mean, you don't expect him to really. He wasn't expected to be a full-time player to start. He was to be more of a platoon, possibly with Chisenhall out in right field. But with the suspension of Abraham Almonte and the injuries that have happened to Chisenhall and Michael Brantley, I mean, it left it leaves the Indians really no choice but to play him on every day, at least for the interim. And speaking of players that have come on nowhere to be full time, Tyler Naquin, my God, that dude had a spring of springs.
Yeah.
And you hope that he's not going to come down too far from how well he played in the spring, but he looked really solid, and we'll see what he can do against some major league pitching here. When the season starts. And unfortunately, as we talked about before, we start the season in cold weather, and when you go from the desert sun in Arizona to the Cleveland snow and these northern cities up here, that could take someone's batting average and reverse it in a very quick and efficient manner. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Naquin's going to do as a real rookie, because he's never played in a major league game until opening day here, not counting spring training. So definitely the outfield is going to be a major thing to watch. I think you're going to see Jose Ramirez get some time out there as a super sub. Colin Cowgill didn't really play very well in my mind in the spring, but they kept him on the team more for depth and for the experience that he brings. And if that outfield can kind of maintain before Chisenhall and Brantley get back to full strength, I think the Indians stand to have a pretty good chance of getting it off to a decent start in April and May, which has been the bane of their existence even since Francona took over.
You're almost behind the 8 ball once June comes around because they get off to such a slow start.
And they say you can't win the division or win the pennant in April and May, but you sure as hell can lose it.
Yeah, and I mean, especially in the Central Division, you have the Kansas City Royals, the returning World Series champion, Detroit Tigers, who are in the hunt every year, except for last year due to injuries. Now you have the White Sox, who again made some free agent acquisitions, a better team than maybe last year, and now the Indians with arguably the best rotation from starter to closer in Major League Baseball right now. I mean, that's going to be, and the problem is that there's only 2 spots, or 1 playoff spot for sure, and then possibly a wild card. Just looking at the AL Central, you got to believe that one of the wild cards, if not both, may come out of that Central Division. Just because, again, a lot of wins, but they're going to, again, attrition in that league, and it's going to be very, very interesting to watch that division play out, especially towards the latter part of the season.
Well, and you were talking about Cowgill. He actually came from the Anaheim Angels, and was kind of one of those platoon players where he played some games and then he didn't play. But obviously, right now you have.
Well, what I forgot about is Marlon Byrd.
Yeah, Marlon Byrd made the team.
Marlon Byrd had 72 home runs the last 3 years. He's going to bring a little bit of pop to the lineup as well, and you hope that he can also maintain status quo in right field when he does fill that position.
How big of a year do you think it has to be for Carlos Santana? I mean, he's steadily declined over the last couple of years, and now they have him listed as a designated hitter. How important is he going to have to get off to a good start and have a good season this year to continue with the Indians?
I think he needs to. I mean, his batting average has been kind of low. He's had some home runs. I'd say 16 on average, and maybe about 60 to 70 RBIs. But he needs to really get consistent hitting. He gets in strikeout mode where I think he tries to hit a lot of home runs and really try to carry this team because we don't have the power hitting. So now, you bring in a Napoli, a Mike Napoli, and I think they're actually going to go back and forth with Santana and Napoli switching first base and designated hitter. But I don't know if Santana needs to stress that as much now. I feel like, there's some talent here. You got Brantley, who's going to be out. But Lindor really brings a little bit of pop. He's a solid hitter. They brought in Juan Uribe, who's a pretty good veteran player. He can hit for some power. Again, he needs to be consistent with his batting average, too, because he also is one of those guys that sometimes goes in all or nothing with some hits, but he's a solid defensive player at third. So I feel like this team has a good mix of young players, but also some veterans. But it's going to be interesting to see what Santana does. Hopefully he doesn't put a lot of pressure on himself and try to do everything. And I think that's kind of been somewhat of his problem, and then he gets in spurts.
I saw it last year. I didn't watch a lot of Indians games. I watched a few more than I normally do. But it felt like to me whenever he got up to bat, he was swinging so hard for the fences. Like it's almost like you want to tell the guy. I mean, I'm not a professional baseball player. I don't know what that's like. Maybe he felt like he had to just throw some extra weight behind it. But it almost seemed he was over swinging and just giving pitchers strikes that he shouldn't. A lot of the stuff he was swinging at was out of the zone. Maybe he was trying to pull. Maybe he was trying to just make contact. But it really did seem like he wasn't in a groove. He wasn't comfortable last year. And I don't know if it was because he was playing first base, and maybe now that he's designated hitter, I think going forward I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. If that was the case, if that could have played anything, maybe he was just getting to that point where it was running him ragged because he's up there as a player, age-wise.
I think with Santana last year was a lot of boom or bust, and he led the team in walks. I mean he actually was one of the tops in the majors for walks. So. He does have patience at bat. I think what you're seeing here, and Rob kind of brought it up with Santana, I think people are looking for him to do a lot more than he's really capable of, and that's because there's a lack of
production.
Well, there's a lack of hitting surrounding him.
Yeah.
He was a lot of times put into that cleanup spot where he's not really suited for, and there was really no position for him in the lineup. That it seemed like Francona had a hard time trying to find a place for him. Hopefully with the additions of like a Mike Napoli, even a Marlon Byrd, maybe he can provide something. And the continued improvement of Francisco Lindor, Jason Kipnis going back to form, and when Brantley comes back, hopefully that'll provide some more support, take less pressure off him, and maybe even being the DH. All he's got to do is hit. That pressure of playing in the field is off of him too, so maybe that can help him out a little bit. Listen, he's batting like 220, 225. Realistically, if you want Santana to have a good year, he'd be up in the 260s, 270.
I'd be happy with that.
And I think we'd all be happy with that. Maybe not Sean, because if he's batting good, that means the rest of the lineup is, and that means the Indians are going to win a lot of games because going back to it, everyone says the pitching staff, pitching.
Yeah.
And the Indians have one of the best pitching staffs on paper to start the season in Major League Baseball. So a lot of good things to be excited for. But like Sean said, in the Central Division, it's going to be
it's going to be a bloodbath. It's
going to be a war.
I mean, yeah.
The AL Central would be like the old NFC North of the old days, where everyone's just beating up on each other. And I tell you what, the winner of the division is only going to be in the mid-80s for sure. Yeah, I think the winner of the Central will be somewhere around 84, 85 wins. And it's going to be very tight in between 2 or 3 teams. And the AL Central might get 2 teams in with that wild card.
I think they will. I think they will get 2 teams in. And, to your point about Santana, I agree with you. He doesn't get to see that. He doesn't have much protection. He never really had. With Brantley out, you get that even less. And the thing is, when you're in a 4 spot in the lineup, it's good that he gets on base with the walks, but you need to have someone who can drive in runs at that position or in that batting spot. And that's why you're talking about, you're hearing rumblings about maybe putting him at the leadoff spot, not because he's fast, but because he gets on base. He walks a lot, and when you get on base, you give yourself a chance to do some things. You could do some hit and runs. Put your other batters in a better position. I don't know. I think last year he took a little bit to heart. I think he saw being a DH as more of a demotion than anything else. I like to think that he's maybe readjusted his thought process with that. I'm sure Francona has talked to him about how this is going to work this year. Him and Napoli are going to be spending a lot of time platooning between the DH and the and first base. With Napoli probably edging him out at first base and playing a lot more defense there. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that plays out. What do you guys think about Bauer going into the bullpen with Anderson and Tomlin filling out the 4 and 5 spots of the rotation?
I was at first a little bit surprised because I thought, Bauer, his issue is he's inconsistent. I think he has really good stuff, but there'd be some games he'd be lights out, and then other games where he just can't find the strike zone and walk a lot of batters. But I think he could be a really effective bullpen guy. There are rumblings about the Indians talking to Texas about a trade with Bauer for another relief pitcher. I'm not sure, if that would happen or make sense, but I think he could be a pretty solid bullpen guy. If you only need him for, shutting down or actually could be long relief.
That's
actually,
what I was thinking.
More or less. But he could be pretty impressive. It's going to be interesting to see, if he can just come into a game and give you a solid inning or 2 or 3, and that's it. Maybe he does better in that situation. But when you have Corey Kluber as the number 1, and then Carrasco, Salazar, Anderson, and Tomlin, these guys, Zach McAllister had to go through the same exact thing. He was a starter for a little while. Seemed like he was a bit inconsistent, so they moved him to the bullpen, and it seemed like he's been pretty effective doing long relief with that. Obviously I'm interested to see how Cody Allen's going to close games for the Indians. I think, he was pretty impressive last year. Went through a little bit of a spurt that, I think he blew a few saves, but he recovered, I thought, pretty nicely. And overall, the bullpen was impressive. You're going to have some games where they're going to blow a lead, but for the most part, if you can nail it down and just continue to go through the year and close games out and keep leads, you're going to win games. Now, obviously, the offense we talked about, has to put up some runs, but they might not need a ton of runs, especially with the pitching staff.
I think Corey Kluber would vehemently disagree with that.
Yeah, that guy lost so many games.
I think his ERA was like .09 higher than what it was when he won his Cy Young. And he lost 16 games.
Yeah,
but
so they need to give him a little bit. They need to give him a little bit of help because, he had. I think he had the 6th least amount of run support out of the 84 regular starting pitchers last year. And
then some of the other guys had plenty of run support.
I saw another stat there, Ed, where it was like they were in like the top 5 of most amount of like lost or going out on the downside of a 1-run game. Like it was the weirdest thing. Like they were always losing 1-run games because they just could not move guys either into scoring position or bring guys across the plate when they needed to, and that comes down to having that production, that consistent production.
Right.
It does, and I always said they need a power hitter, and I'm backing off of that because I think if you get a group of guys that can make contact and continually move people on the bases, you don't need to be hitting home runs.
Yeah, look at the Royals.
Right, you can bat them around the bases, but the problem is that there was never last year there was no consistent offensive production, which was able to bail out pitchers. So they were always continually pitching either from the stretch or they were pitching into late into the innings with no sort of insurance runs, which is tough for a starting pitcher mentally. Corey Kluber's probably the most like stern guy you've ever seen in your life, but I'm sure when it's in the bottom of the 8th inning, he's got 2 men on and a 1-run lead. That's stressful for any pitcher. You like to have as many runs or know that coming up you can get some runs across the plate.
Well, and you're right. Their inconsistency was huge last year because you'd go for stretches where they'd score 0, 0, 1, 3, and then they blow up for like 10 or 11 runs.
Right.
And after the game had already been won, you're just like, hey guys, save a little bit of this for the next game.
Right.
You've already had this game won.
Yeah. Spread it out, buddies.
Spread that out a little bit. It's just that was the most frustrating part, and it's not something that they don't already know. It's just a matter of them executing.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree. They need to put up more runs, but I think with what
consistently.
Yes, they need to consistently do it. But with Corey Kluber, like you said, they'll score 1 or 2 runs for him, but then the next pitcher gets about 10 or gets at least 4 or 5. And I think the magic number, if they can score 4 or 5 runs per game, I think they're going to win a lot of games.
So let's move on to the other team in the Central Division.
Quickly.
Yep.
We're talking about my Detroit Tigers. Now,
all right, good talk. So we're live from
every time I want to talk. No, I just want to say that the Tigers made some offseason moves, picking up Justin Upton, getting Jordan Zimmerman. That's huge. Also getting Francisco Rodriguez as a closer, probably one of the better consistent closers across and that's been one of the big problems for the Tigers over the last 6 10 years is they have really good starting pitching, really good offense, but when it comes to the 7 through 9 innings, it's just basically hold on and pray to God that somebody figures out how to throw a curveball or a sinker or something across and get some strikeouts. But pretty excited. I think the Tigers are going to have a pretty good year. I'm going to keep it short and just say I wouldn't be shocked if Miguel Cabrera has another amazing season just because he's healthier than he's ever been coming out of spring training.
Boy, you're really going out on a limb there, aren't you?
Well, they don't pay me the big bucks for making dumb calls.
What do you think about, the closer position for Detroit has been one that I think, they went with Joe Nathan who just turned 50. Last year. Now they go with Francisco Rodriguez.
Who's like 45.
Who's 45. So, you went from 50 to 45 at that position. What do you think about the closer position for the Tigers? Is that, do you feel comfortable?
I feel a lot more comfortable going into the season this year than I did last year. I wasn't a Joe Nathan fan. He was better than what we had, considering that, we had no real closer. But again, we needed a veteran in there, and now that we got Francisco Rodriguez, I feel a little bit more confident because he's a guy that's, even though he's up there in age, he knows how to get the outs that he needs to get. He's a grinder. He's been doing it for a long time at the highest level. So I'm pretty confident in our close. My concern is getting to him. My concern is getting from whenever the starting pitcher, let's say Verlander or Zimmerman gives me 6-7 innings. I need to get to 9, and my concern there is going to be with our relief pitching. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of names there. I'm just hoping that it's younger guys that understand that their roles and can give us solid outings each time they're called upon.
I will say Rodriguez was with Milwaukee in 2014 and 15, and he had 44 and 38 saves and a 3.04 and a 2.21 ERA the last 2 years. So
pretty good.
Some pretty solid stats, because I know with Baltimore, he didn't do great in 23 games. Had a 4.50 ERA.
Yeah, but a lot of that was because he was either it was one of those one-run situations, or it was he's going up against at that time Boston and New York, and those were pretty much all-star lineups at that point.
That's what you get paid the big bucks for.
Well, and again, he only had 23 games against played, so it wasn't as if he was out there for, a lot of the time.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's no shortage of runs scored.
Yeah.
From the Detroit Tigers squad, and JD Martinez, I think, is primed for a major year this year.
That's what I was about to get to. Is I think if you're to find out a breakout star out of this team, which is tough to do, JD Martinez is primed for one of those breakout seasons.
He reminds me of and this is just, I'm saying this basically, I'm not saying he's gonna be the next one of these guys, but I see him kind of in the same spot that Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome were in the early '90s, where they got the bat a little bit further in the lineup down. I think he batted 5th last year, but now that he has so much protection.
Oh yeah.
With Victor Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, Justin Upton now.
Yeah.
Even at the top of the lineup, you have Iglesias and
Iglesias
and Kinsler. This guy takes those pitches and just smokes them, and that's exactly what Ramirez and Thome were able to do in the early '90s when they developed into the monsters that they were.
Yeah.
I could see the same thing happening with Martinez, or with JD Martinez, who was once, I believe, either on the Indians' radar or it had something to do with the Indians. I'm not sure. Oh no, it was the Astros. The Astros. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Way to ruin that one. They're in a pretty good spot right now, but it took them some years of absolute pain to get to where they are. But no, you have to think that would have been speeded up a little bit quicker with JD Martinez still on that team.
And actually, they did pick up an Indians player in Mike Aviles, who went from the Indians
that's true.
to the Tigers. And, he was a solid player for the Indians who can pretty much play every single position. I think that's what makes him really valuable there.
And I think, I don't blame the Indians for moving on, because you have Jose Ramirez, who was also smoking the ball something fierce this spring, but he's a super utility man, just like Aviles. He's still on. He's still going to be under control from the major leagues for a long time to come. And you basically have Mike Aviles 10 years ago with Ramirez right now. So it was kind of a no-brainer. one of those guys who's a great guy. You hate to see him go, but in this case, it was a not personal business type of deal.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in the Central Division. The Tigers upgraded. We know what the Royals have. And the White Sox, well, they're the White Sox. They'll have decent players, would probably end up near the
You never know with the
middle.
White Sox.
Do you have any win predictions for the Indians this year?
No predictions for me.
Wow. All right.
I'll say that, they're probably going to be at about 80 wins, I would say.
I'm going to go 86 and 76 with a wild card berth.
Whoa.
Who's going to win the division?
The Royals.
Tigers win the division. Indians and Royals get the wild card. I say the Indians finish with 82 wins.
Tigers?
86.
I thought he was going to say like 95.
102.
I mean, look. The Cardinals last year had 100 wins, and no one barely talked about them.
That's fair.
So
That's
you
fair.
never know. A team could get hot, figure out a way to do it. You never know.
All right, well, we're at the Team Strongsville Swing for the Stars baseball party. Benefit and the proceeds go to the Kelly Kinney Pay It Forward grant from the Strongsville Rec Center. We're going to step away, take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have some more interviews, guests, and we'll talk about anything you want right here. Sports on Tap. Live.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Join